news, current affairs, facts and opinion. Their future in our hands. Markets, globalist technocrats versus the people. A line in the sand. The McIntyre Report.
And welcome, folks, to a special edition of the McIntyre Report. I'm reporting live from Sydney, Australia, where I've been holidaying over the Christmas break and before we head back to Indonesian studios, where we much more safely can report on what goes on in Australia, but also geopolitics. Venezuela is in the headlines, and for very good reason. Many people are divided between their left politics divide or their right. And I say to many people here at independent media, we don't want to get caught up in the left and right divide. That's by the same group of people that try to divide you to conquer you. Now, we clearly know it's against international law to do what Trump's done. Trump has obviously kidnapped a president. President was elected for Venezuela. Now, many of the opposition will claim that he, fraudulent elections, but it appears the evidence coming out, it's the opposition which is funded by we know who. We won't mention the fake state created in 1948 in the Middle East that likes bombing children to death in Gaza, but this fake state is wanting the opposition leader, and they've been trying to do regime change or defraud the Venezuelan people by putting in their puppet for many years now. And the opposition leader is a Zionist. And but that's fails. They've simply removed in an operation organized by Trump. Now, some people in the Trump camp still think Trump is fighting the evil globalists. Yes, Trump is fighting the evil globalists, but he's working clearly for the right faction, Zionists, and the Netanyahu and whoever Netanyahu answers to. And that's what people don't realize. And so we reported live almost a year ago. It was CPAC in Washington when Trump was there, Musk, and the whole host of them. The only people that got to speak at CPAC, which is the largest political conservative action conference in the world, are those who clearly in the Zionist camp. You're not in the Trump administration unless you're a Zionist. Trump himself is a Zionist, pro-Israel. MAGA was now being exposed as nothing more than MIGA, make Israel great again at the expense of America. Certainly he's an American first. They misled us, and a lot of people understand that now. That's why MAGA is dead in the water. America first movement is growing rapidly, and here at Independent Media, we support BRICS nations more than the right faction Netanyahu, one world government fantasy dream run out of Jerusalem, or you got the globalist left, which a lot of the people on the left will support. You'll own nothing but be happy crowd, World Economic Forum and woke nutters, transgenderism and all that pushed upon society, degeneracy. But if you look above the left and right faction Zionism, you're going to find the same group of elite criminals that use a very good technique to divide you. So Venezuela, you'll be divided into two camps unless you're an independent critical thinker and go, hang on a minute, I can tell that this isn't accurate. And we know that it's wrong. Whether, of course, anyone they want to install a Rothschild's bank and steal their oil. Venezuela is the largest proven oil reserves on the planet, but it's more than just oil, as you'll see. It's a lot to do also with gold and silver, the theft of gold and silver, because the Federal Reserve, the banker wankers that created this fake state in 1948 called Israel, need the gold reserves to basically run their financial system. And I watched a good video on that yesterday. We'll run on Australian National Review. You can follow that 24-hour news headlines at ANR.news. So the point being is that we shouldn't pick sides, left or right perspective of what's going on in Venezuela. We should just look at it for what it is. It's a resource grab, not just oil, but gold and silver, a desperate move by the dying regime of banker wanker cartels that desperately need silver to prop up the massive exposure they got with the gap now. That's, if you haven't heard, just before New Year's Eve, the silver prices, physical silver shot through the roof. There's an arbitrage, big difference between paper silver, derivatives contracts on silver, which the banks such as JP Morgan, other US banks sell to customers. But now there's such a big gap. Normally it's fine because they can just go, here, we sell you a paper contract, which will, if you wish to, utilize that paper contract, we'll have to provide you with, $30 for an ounce of silver. But when that silver shot up to $89 physical silver, all of a sudden these banks are exposed. And if you want to exchange or settle your paper contract for silver, you paid $30 for it. The banks are now on the hook for $89. They've got to go and buy physical silver, and there's not enough physical silver because they desperately flew to China to try and buy a heap off China, and China immediately basically told them FO, and is not going to bail them out, and basically did even more, and basically put a stop to most of their silver exports, which they control a large part of the market. So silver is a big thing Venezuela also has, not to mention gold. But let's take a look at some other perspectives on what's really going on there.
You still believe that Maduro is a socialist dictator and that Venezuela is a trafficking state because the opposition said so? I need you to understand that you might as well just believe Israel. You might as well just believe the IDF and Trump. The opposition in Venezuela is a violent terror group that does nothing but unalive innocent civilians and lies time and time again. They aren't even good at lying. Let's go over some of their most notorious lies. For example, did you know since 1998, the opposition has falsely claimed that each election has been fraud? So in that sense, they're 0 for 6. What's funny too, in 2018, Maduro said, okay, let's get the UN to come and observe these elections. And guess what the opposition did? They protested the UN offices because they said that that would legitimize the government. In 2013, the opposition even tried to say that Maduro was a Colombian, so he couldn't run for president. And I don't know if you guys saw it, about a week ago, Maria Corina Machado said that the H group operates inside of Venezuela. It's getting so lazy. And we can even talk about the 2014 and 2017 Guarimbas, which was pretty much two violent coup attempts by the opposition where they ended up unaliving Chavistas on the street. And when we look at the numbers, the majority of violence that happened during these protests was from the opposition. During these violent coups, the opposition even claimed that Maduro burned aid that was going into the country, when in reality, after investigations were done, it turns out the aid was burned by the opposition trying to throw fire bottles at innocent civilians, because again, the Venezuelan opposition are far-right Zayos that don't care about the working class, they don't care about Venezuela, and they don't care about the people. Long live the Bolivarian Revolution and hands off Venezuela.
Well, that's a perspective from someone there, and there's different perspectives. And we should look at that independent media. We don't care for taking sides; we care for the truth, what's really going on. So you divided either the globalists that hate Trump will use this as a way to attack Trump. Those who still support Trump, I suggest if you're a critical thinker, it's very hard to still support Trump, thinking that he's taking down the globalists. Yes. They want to stop the globalists and drain that swamp, only to replace it with the right faction, that Netanyahu swamp, which loves dropping bombs on children and starting war after war and want to drag America into World War III. This is also part of the Iran war that they want, because they need to shore up oil reserves to keep the oil market running as they target Iran, and Iran will cut most likely the Hormuz Strait and cut off the oil. Let's look at some other perspectives on what's going on here.
El 85% de los miles de millones del narcotráfico internacional anual están en los bancos de Estados Unidos. Ahí está el cartel, que lo investiguen y lo descubran. El lavado de dinero. Mira, yo estaba viendo los datos que dio la vicepresidenta y creo que son más de 500.000 millones de dólares anuales que están en la banca de Estados Unidos, en los bancos legales. Si ellos quisieran investigar un cartel, que investiguen el cartel en el norte, porque allá es que desde Estados Unidos que se dirige todo el narcotráfico de Sudamérica y del mundo, porque también dirigen el narcotráfico del opio, etcétera, etcétera. Es en los Estados Unidos que están las mafias, que están los verdaderos carteles.
Well, very interesting information there. We highlighted on a show only a couple of days ago, Maduro highlighting, exposing Netanyahu, etc. So obviously Israel had many motives to get rid of him for speaking the truth. But we're all told in the West by predominantly Israeli propaganda that controls the West, and people don't understand this. If you're trying to figure this out, America is a colony of Israel. It's not the other way around. Israel, or the people that founded Israel, are predominantly the Rothschilds, dear Lord Rothschilds, 1917 Balfour Declaration. I mean, that's not in dispute that the Rothschilds and 3 terrorist groups founded Israel, and that they control the central banking system, including them with other private bankers the Federal Reserve, which just simply prints fake money, counterfeit money, lends it to the US government. And they invented income taxes to be imposed on Americans, Australians, and English and Western Europe and the West to pay back the debt on this fake money. And that's how the system works. And they don't like countries that don't allow this system, including Venezuela was one of the few countries remaining that a Rothschild's bank is not installed into. So they have all the motivation to do that. But it's true. I mean, they're trying to now, in America, is now laying charges against Maduro, the former, well, still the Venezuelan president, really, on cocaine importing or drug trafficking. Yet the CIA and deep state in America is the biggest drug traffickers on the planet. They're the ones that run all that. Venezuela, he doesn't. He opposes it. The opium trade, as you'll see this, we covered yesterday with Candace Owens talking about Afghanistan, was all about the opium trade. Actually, opium production has dropped dramatically after America was booted out. The Taliban's cut it by over 72%. So these criminal elites that run the deep state, both left and right faction Zionism, are basically, if you have studied this book here, if you haven't read it yet, I highly recommend it. One Nation Under Blackmail by Whitney Webb highlights just, we're talking criminal cartels, basically mafia, not the Italian mafia you watch in the movies, but effectively a mafia that hangs out a lot and founded Israel, are really behind a lot of this. We're dealing with criminal elites, and anyone that opposes them, they'll call them an evil dictator, like Maduro is an evil dictator, or a communist, or we've got to stop the drug trade. In Nigeria, which is another country we're predicting they're going to want to try and have U.S. military intervention. Of course, it'll be like killing Christians we've got to stop. Well, yes, they should stop killing Christians, but they're not telling you they're the ones, Israel, funding the weapons into any, like they do in another country, pretty much every country, to cause civil tensions. They did it in Indonesia in the 50s and 60s, arming the rebels to try and overthrow and destabilize the government, to put their puppet regime government in and steal the resources and genocide the people. This is a proven playbook over and over again. Look what they did to Venezuela. They sanctioned it to death. They put mass people in poverty. Then they blame Maduro for that. They're out before that. It was the Chavez they were after.
La posibilidad de una guerra está ahí, entonces.
Pero tú no ves la amenaza que es para nosotros el imperio de los Estados Unidos.
¿Por qué cree que Estados Unidos quiere atacar Venezuela?
Bueno, ahí está la historia reciente. Yo te voy a decir la causa más importante. Aquí mismo, está la reserva de petróleo más grande de este planeta. Aquí en Venezuela tenemos petróleo para más de 100 años. A Estados Unidos se le está acabando el petróleo. La razón de mayor peso de que Estados Unidos quiera poner aquí un gobierno subordinado a él, al imperio, como lo tuvieron durante mucho tiempo, es el petróleo venezolano.
Quiero hacerle una pregunta sin que a usted le moleste. ¿Está usted paranoico con Estados Unidos?
No, de ninguna manera. Yo solo soy realista. Si tú le pudieras hacer esa pregunta que me has hecho a mí, lo que pasa es que no podrás porque la mayoría están muertos. Hazle esa pregunta a Jacobo Arbenz, que era presidente de Guatemala cuando yo estaba naciendo, tú no habías nacido. Solo porque quiso hacer una reforma agraria. Lo invadieron Estados Unidos y lo derrocaron. Tú pudieras hacerle esa pregunta a João Goulart, el brasileño. Lo derrocaron Estados Unidos. Tú pudieras hacerle esa pregunta a Salvador Allende, el presidente mártir. Tú pudieras hacerle esa pregunta a Juan Bosch, el expresidente dominicano derrocado por la invasión de los Estados Unidos. Tú pudieras hacerle esa pregunta a mi general Omar Torrijos, asesinado por la CIA. Y ya, muchos más. ¿No es paranoica? ¿Es la verdad? Yo estoy cumpliendo una responsabilidad de jefe de Estado. Los paranoicos son otros, los de la extrema derecha, los enloquecidos que creen que el mundo no va a cambiar, las burguesías de este continente, pitiyanquis que pretenden a rajatabla seguir dominando a estos pueblos y no van a poder lograrlo. Solo después del 11 de septiembre, Estados Unidos empezó a hacer la lista de terroristas. Bueno, y a mí me tienen también en esa lista. Estados Unidos, el gobierno de Estados Unidos, lanzó una bomba atómica sobre Hiroshima, una bomba atómica, y otra sobre Nagasaki. Eso es terrorismo.
Yeah, very valid. That's Chavez, who was the Venezuelan president before. Once again, we were told he's an evil dictator. But who's telling us this? Now, I'm not saying these leaders are perfect. No one should suggest that. But we should question who is smearing and defaming these people. Are they perfect? Are they just deflecting, wanting us to be diverted away so they can get away with their crimes? So we should actually, if we're going to be independent and not bought into left and right political divide and not be manipulated by the criminal elites that control our world and control the West and want to extend that domination globally to take over the world, and they need to get rid of Iran, China, Russia, Venezuela, North Korea in particular, these nations who can fulfill their one world government fantasy. We need to actually listen to different perspectives. And then we realize, well, who's saying these people are evil, bad people? Is it the people that is telling us that these are the evil ones, that perhaps they're deflecting? Are they the evil ones? Let's go to a quick ad break. We'll be back with some more in this special edition of the McIntyre Report, Australian National Review, independent media out of Australia. We're actually live in Sydney right now in this building right behind me, One Global Resorts. A beautiful development and staying at. And we'll be back with just some more.
The McIntyre Report.
And welcome back, folks. Special edition here live from Sydney. Australian National Review, McIntyre Report, ANR.news for our 24-hour news headlines talking about Venezuela here. Let's hear it from maybe a different perspective. Take a look at this.
Now listen up. As you probably read in some gay newspaper, we're now at war with Venezuela. All you nerds are like, wait, but was there an official declaration of war? Yeah, it's right here. Superfinger, Dean Cook. Now you got questions for me? Fine. Pretend I'm a random fishing boat and fire away.
Okay. Is there any truth to the allegations that after an initial strike on a drug smuggling boat, you ordered a second strike to kill the survivors?
First of all, that kind of cruel, heartless act has no place in Operation Kill Everybody. Second, I wasn't even in the room when it happened, okay? I was so jacked up after the first strike, I had to make an emergency call to my sponsor. A guy I met at an anonymous meeting. So I don't drink something that I like and I want, but I can't have, but I want it and I need it and I want it right now. Ba-ba-ba-ba-da, it's booze. Next question.
Yes. What do you say to Senator Mark Kelly, who said you act like a 12-year-old playing Army?
First of all, Kelly, that's a girl's name. What's his first name? Dress?
No, it's Mark, like I said.
Oh, get a husband.
I'm trying.
Well, to answer your question, if I was just playing Army, would there be 80 dead fishermen, narco-terrorists in Venezuela right now? Next question.
Yeah, so is 80 the official death toll?
Well, is 80 the official? No, it's 6-7, 6-7. Idiot. Let's just say if I had a drink for every Venezuelan we've killed, I'd really like that number of drinks. All right, up next? Oh my God, is that Matt Gaetz?
That's right! It's me, Matt Gaetz. I'm a reporter now. Question. You're only killing people who are trafficking drugs, right? So, hypothetically, if someone were trafficking something else, they'd be okay?
We're targeting drug smugglers exclusively.
Giggity. No further questions, Your Honor.
I have a question.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, Will and Grace, go.
My name is actually William Grace. How do you respond to the allegations that the so-called war on smugglers is a smokescreen for regime change?
Oh, whoa, way to solve the mystery, Scoob! Of course that's what we're doing, and it always works. Just like it did in Guatemala, Nicaragua, Cuba, Brazil, Bolivia, Panama, Haiti, El Salvador, Chile, Honduras, Peru, Animaniacs.
Very interesting and very hilarious there, but a lot of truth in satire. It's one way to reach the masses. Let's take a look at Gaza. A doctor has come out saying this about, it always leads back to who we call they are causing most of the fuckery in the world.
I'm Jewish, and I've been to Gaza as part of a humanitarian medical delegation. That was about 5 years ago. At that time, Israel was doing the same thing it's doing now, but it was a slow genocide. Now it's full out, the gloves are off, and the mask is off.
I've told many people that our doctors have been arrested and put in jail and tortured. Israelis are excellent at torturing people. They do it all the time.
A well-known orthopedic surgeon was taken to their torture prison and was raped to death. Raped to death.
Please, just 2 minutes, please. That's it. We're done. Be the Nobel Peace Prize winner.
It doesn't matter. None of that matters.
And we can't even speak up in our own country.
Fascism.
Say this is unusual. This is targeted, obviously.
Bombs are killing hospitals, bombing hospitals, and we can't talk about it. Where the bombs are coming from. It's embarrassing. It is an absolute disgrace.
You cannot do
demonstration.
Even
no signs.
You're bringing attention to your cause. Stop demonstrating. Disperse. It's done. It ends here, or else we start giving warnings, and everyone that's involved here is arrested.
Thank you for feeding the children.
We are here in Washington, D.C. Thousands of doctors gathered in front of Congress. They are calling for the restoration of funding to UNRWA, and they are demanding the release of Dr. Hussam Abu Safia.
And so I am here with my colleagues, both doctors, both psychologists, veterinarian. Yeah, everyone's just here really making sure that the voices of the Gazans and the Palestinians generally aren't forgotten.
Well, they're very brave doctors and nurses speaking out there and Jewish. And I think we really, we're looking for solutions. We must encourage and support the good Jewish people in this world to get their voice, to speak up against the criminal elite that controls Israel and controls the West. Just like we have to encourage people in the West to speak up and not be intimidated or cower in fear against this mafia, you could call them. That threaten and kill journalists and bomb doctors and bomb children and their parents. Collectively, the more that speak up, they can't Charlie Kirk us all. And, you got to make a choice. What do I have? I can't change this. Well, you collectively can, because each of us have a duty to know the truth and to speak the truth. And I think the solution to this problem is not fuel hatred towards Jewish people. As I said, half my friends are Jewish, very good people, and many of them agree with my politics, even though when I speak out about who's likely behind the Bondi massacres, the same people behind Bali bombings, Port Arthur massacre, September 11th, bombing USS Liberty, October 7th, can really be a sensitive topic. The truth is sensitive. But we shouldn't be concerned about the feelings of the aggressors. We should be concerned about the feelings of the parents that have to pick up the body pieces of their children that have been bombed to death by the criminal war state of Israel and the war criminal Netanyahu. We shouldn't be listening or standing with Netanyahu, standing with Israel. We should be standing with humanity. And that goes for Jewish people as well. And I would implore Jewish people that, like all of us, you must take a stand. You have no obligation to stand for Israel. Just like I'm Scottish ancestry, if Scotland was bombing to death children in Gaza, am I obligated to stand with Israel? Should I get offended if people are critical of Scotland's behavior? Would that make me anti-Scottish to criticize them? Or, it's absurd, this whole anti-Semitism nonsense. You're perfectly entitled to object to mass murderers, war criminals, a group of elites that think they can drop bombs on children and get away with it, do genocides, Holocaust, and then call us Holocaust deniers because we don't believe in their fabricated, exaggerated one. Interesting.
I don't want to admit that he's a complete fucking puppet. It's so hard to admit you've been fooled, but
he's literally taken America into one big, massive humiliation ritual. It's an embarrassment.
It's the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen. Like, I can give so many examples, but like when Benjamin Netanyahu visited the White House, he handed him a golden pager. That is a death threat. We all know that. And then he goes and pulls his chair out for him. Like, it was just an humiliation ritual.
Yes, it certainly is humiliating, but some people still believe in hopium and think Trump is going to drain the swamp and is working for you. No, Trump is not MAGA. Have you not understood that yet? I know it's uncomfortable to accept the reality, and we talked about this last February at CPAC when we warned our viewers, by the way, the political revolution you hope to get through the promise of MAGA, Make America Great Again, is false. Trump is controlled by the Zionists. Trump himself is a Zionist. He basically has to do as he's told. He's not saving Israel to last, unfortunately. If you keep on believing that, you might as well, basically you're supporting those right faction Zionism that wants to enslave you just as bad as the left faction does.
They told you it was about oil, but what if I told you the U.S. just stole $1 trillion in silver while everyone was watching the wrong headline? It was not a war. It was a resource extraction op. Look, less than 24 hours after the U.S. invaded Venezuela, a deal was inked. A new $8 billion silver smelter facility financed by JP Morgan, jointly owned by the Department of Defense to process Venezuelan silver. Why? Because JP Morgan was underwater on a physical silver short worth billions. They did not invade for oil. They invaded to bail out the bank. Comment scroll if you're ready for the real blueprint. I'll scan your scroll and remind you how you already won. Look, Venezuela sits on the Arco Minero, trillions in unmined gold and silver. JP Morgan gets caught rigging silver, pays $1 billion in fines, and now they just buy the smelter and rewrite the rules. And they did it with your tax money. The US military didn't just topple a regime. They cleared the path to mine collateral for a failing financial system. Comment scroll to decode your wealth timeline. What's coming next will crush the unprepared. Look, silver just crossed $75 per ounce. Physical silver is trading near and above $100 per ounce depending on where you live in the world, but JP Morgan and COMEX are still manipulating paper prices. Meanwhile, crude oil is collapsing, and for the first time ever, the paper market is losing control. The return to sound money is here. Sovereign money, scroll-backed money, but it's not gold. It's the metal they tried to bury. Silver. They didn't just build a smelter, they built an extraction funnel, and they're draining the vaults in broad daylight. You're either on the scroll-coded path, or you're the liquidity they're stealing from. Comment scroll if you're done playing their game.
Yeah, what you're talking about is actually true. We reported on this. The gap between paper silver, which was as little as $30, is now $89 for physical silver. That it's gone higher now. So they've been manipulating the markets, and they caught out. What this really comes down to is Venezuela is becoming part of the BRICS, and the BRICS are moving to a commodities-backed and an asset-backed, gold and silver-backed currency because no one wants to buy the US dollar anymore. So this is really a banker's war. Who gets to issue currency? And they know if oil and Venezuela is firmly in the BRICS camp, they must stop that. They must stop the oil. They must stop Russia and China and the BRICS building this alliance of creating a new currency, because who wouldn't go and buy BRICS currency when it comes out that's backed by gold and silver and commodities versus US dollar that's printed by a bunch of fake Jewish imposters? That would be the Rothschilds, if you're wondering. And backed by absolutely nothing other than theft, genocide and more war to steal more resources. So yes, definitely look into that some more.
ChatGPT, Grok, and all the major AI models are bribed by Israel. The company Clock Tower X, which was owned by a former Trump campaign manager, signed a $6 million contract with Havas Media. And Havas Media was contracted by the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs to promote a pro-Israel narrative. I guess that's what you have to do while you're conducting a genocide, amongst many other schemes. You have to bribe Google search results, bribe the mainstream media, bribe politicians, because if the news, the search results, and the opinions wouldn't be bought and paid for, then the whole world would see how troubling the truth really is, and the power structure would flip on its head. So what's the solution? It would be easy to say, let's boycott ChatGPT, but I don't think it's realistic at this point. What we need to do is correct AI whenever we see biased results. We retrain the model by replying to the result with independent articles, facts, figures, pictures, and research papers. Because if we don't put the truth in these AI models, then not only we will be brainwashed by their lies, but the education system will indoctrinate our children with this garbage.
Yeah, you must question why they're so desperate to control what you think. So what you think does matter. It does. So if you think you don't have the power to change the world, you do. They're so desperate to have you think what they want you to think, as opposed to being an independent thinker, following independent media that looks for and seeks the truth on these topics and not be manipulated left or right, black or white, immigrant, non-immigrant, gay, non-gay, transgender, non-transgender, a feminist, female versus male. It's all designed to divide to conquer, keep you separated. So they deflect from who is the real enemy. Oh, you should hate Muslims and Christians should hate Muslims because they're scared of Christians and Muslims united, and both have traditional values and oppose the real enemy. So once you understand the games at foot, then you can start to decipher what's real and what's not.
Now, the idea of, say, they attack hospitals because Hamas used them as areas to fight from. They have bases within, underneath. From your time there, did you see Hamas fighters operating from medical facilities?
No, I didn't. And it's disappointing to hear that this is still being raised by the media in our country. The Israeli military claim this, but you will know, as with all other media outlets know, that there has been no verifiable, no credible evidence to support those claims. I have borne witness, as indeed many other healthcare workers have, repeatedly over the last 2 years, that none of us have witnessed any evidence of Hamas militant activity in the hospitals. And I will state again that the evidence from the Israeli spokesman is lacking. There is no verifiable, no credible evidence to support those claims.
You mean Israel's been lying to us? Anyone surprised? Didn't think so. We're back with some more next week on the McIntyre Report. This is our special edition, live from Sydney. Follow our 24-hour news headlines at anr.news or Jamie McIntyre 21. You can follow myself on X. Deleted often off Facebook. You might find me there, Instagram, but predominantly X is a platform we can speak out a little bit, but not too much. But independent media is doing a great job. Well done to the likes of Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, fired from fake news media, now bigger followings than ever, and many, many journalists, and the hundreds of millions of citizen journalists out there that are calling out the lies and BS narrative of this fake state created in 1948 and their attempt to take over not just the West, but the entire world. We'll be back on the next episode. Take care.
if I told you that owning a beachfront villa in Indonesia could cost less than a new car? Marina Bay City, Lombok, new release villas start from just $99,000 AUD, and they can generate up to 20% yearly rental returns, plus 50-80% capital gain while being built. Lombok is Bali's stunning, untouched neighbor, same paradise vibe, but still early and affordable. Smart investors are already moving in. Want to see how? Join our free webinar, Message Us Webinar, and we'll send you the link.
What does $78,000 get you in Bali? Introducing Resort KNVOs by LUX. Studios from $79,000 AUD. Hotel-style amenities. Live, work, unwind. Unique design villas, live in or rent out. Prime Seminyak location. Steps to dining, buffets and beach clubs. Projected net annual returns, 12 to 18% PA. Thinking of moving to Bali? Own your place in Seminyak. Own at Resort KNVOs by Lux Seminyak.